Okay guys, I'm going to be going over both the hang snatch and a snatch from the ground position. So first thing we do when we do a snatch is we're going to put our feet underneath of our hips. We're going to angle our toes out slightly. It's important that we do angle out our toes because eventually we're going to be adding a dip in the scenario. And then whenever you dip down, it's going to automatically make your knees drive out in the direction that your toes are facing, which is just going to make full use of those quad muscles, and it's also just going to be a safer position. If we have our toes completely forward, then what tends to happen is when we dip down, our knees kind of cave in, which is not necessarily good on those knee joints or ankle joints. So feet just underneath those shoulders, angle out those toes. As far as our grip goes, we're going to go with a wide grip. And for this, it should be right across your belt loop. You can kind of roll it to see if it's across your hips there. Another way that people can get that position is they kind of lean down like this, make sure their arms are completely straight, and it's in that crease of where your belly meets your thighs when you're hunched over. And the next thing that is very important that people tend to kind of brush off in the beginning, but it is essential to a good snatch, is what we call the hook grip. So I'm going to kind of zoom in here. When you do a hook grip, you're going to wrap your thumb around the bar and your fingers around your thumb. So again, thumb goes around the bar, fingers around your thumb. This is not necessarily something that feels natural, but it is a tight grip and it's good for anything that's rotational. So we have our wide grip, our good stance. We're going to work on our upper body first and work our way down to our lower body. So if you're following along at home, grab yourself a PVC pipe or a broomstick or a mop stick, and we'll walk through it step by step. First thing we're going to do is what we call the Scarecrow Pose. So you're going to drive your elbows out wide and high, and you're going to take it up to your chest. And if I'm watching from a side standpoint, it's actually dragging my stomach as my elbows pull up wide and high. We call it a scarecrow because it's kind of like a scarecrow kind of hanging in a field as so. So let's go ahead and do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, from here, once we make our way up to our chest, we're going to flick our wrist and punch the barbell or the PVC pipe overhead. So I'm going to keep it nice and close. Once I get to my chest, flick my wrist, and then punch my head through so that my arms are locked and those elbows are straight. So punch your arms up, flick overhead. I'll show you a side view as so. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, this time, when we're flicking that barbell overhead, we're actually going to take hold of that PVC pipe or that barbell and pull our body underneath of the bar as so. So I'm going to punch my elbows all the way up to my chest, and once I get here, I'm going to go ahead and pull myself down underneath of it into a mini squat as I punch those arms overhead. Here's a side view, nice and close. I make my way up to my chest, and then I pull myself down underneath into that mini squat as so. Don't worry about your feet at this moment. We're just focusing on the upper body. So let's go ahead and do that 3 times. Go ahead and punch your elbows out. Pull yourself down. 2 more times. Punch, pull down. Punch, pull down. Good. Okay. Now, let's take a minute to talk about what's called the power position. So you're going to hear our trainers talk a lot about this position. And we use it not only in this position, but also in a few other lifts as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we have that hook grip. And what I'm going to have you guys do is kind of push your wrists forward. I'm going to have you rotate your shoulder blades back together so we have nice tall posture. And then I'm going to have you drive your knees out so that the barbell is right there in your hip crease. Knees are driving out. We're in a vertical position as so. Okay? So go ahead and get in that position. Let's do it again together. Wrists forward. Shoulder blades back together, knees out. Then go ahead and give me a few bounces. This is going to be our dip, just a short, fast dip. Notice that it's not a squatting position, so we're not going too low. We're not letting those heels come off the ground. Short and fast. Dip, dip, dip. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to dip, we're going to jump, and we're going to punch that barbell into the finishing snatch position. So I'm here. Let's go ahead and do this together. Let's get into our power position first. Wrists forward, shoulder blades back together, knees out. And then from here, we're going to just go ahead and give ourselves a bounce, jump, punch that barbell overhead. Bounce, jump, punch. Bounce, bounce, jump, punch. I'm going to show you a side view. Bounce, jump, punch. So let's go ahead and do 3 more together. Here we go. Wrist forward, shoulder blades back together, knees out. And go. And go. And go. Okay, now we're going to take it on down into what we call the hang position. So this is a position that we feel, well, that you're going to use a lot in CrossFit, not only from a weightlifting standpoint, but it is just a normal lift that you'll see in our everyday workout of the days, or watts. But it's also a position that we use to teach our beginners. So we want you to focus on the hang position for really the next 3 weeks as you enter into those regular classes. So whenever you see a snatch prescribed on our workouts, know that as a beginner, we want you to do that from the hang position for at least 3 weeks so that you get comfortable with this movement before you start trying to take it from the floor. So let's talk about how we get into that hang position. And if you hear noises in the background, I apologize. My 5-month-old baby is to the side playing, so just kind of ignore the baby cues. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into that power position again. Wrist forward, shoulder blades back together, knees out. From here, I'm going to shift the weight back to my heels as I drag this barbell down my thighs. I'm going to show you from a side standpoint what that looks like. Weight shifts back to my heels, barbell drags down to just above my knees. A few key things that we want to focus on here. One, my shoulders are in front of the bar, not back here behind the bar, okay? Notice that I just have a slight bend in my knee, so I've basically activated those hamstrings. If I hold this position for a long time, I'll feel that in my hamstrings. And then I've got a nice neutral back, okay? So I'm not rounded as so, but my neck and face is looking forward as I keep a nice neutral back. Still got that hook grip. From here, guys, what we're going to do is scoop our hips in towards the bar, and then I'm going to pull my chest back as my hips scoop in. Hips scoop in, chest pulls back. Guess where I am? I'm back at the power position. I'm going to send those hips back, take it back to the hang, and then let's go ahead and pull those hips in, and I'm back to my power. One more time, back to the hang, and then we're going to scoop those hips in and pull back to the power. Okay, good job. 1 second. Okay, now that we've learned to go from the hang position back to the power position, we're going to connect all of the elements of the hang snatch. So let's go ahead and set up with our feet underneath our hips, our hook grip, nice and wide, thumbs around the bar, fingers around the bar. We'll go wrist forward, shoulder blades back together, knees out into our power position. We're going to shift all the way back to those heels into our hang position. I'm going to turn sideways. And then from here, we're going to scoop our hips into the bar, pulling our chest back. And then once we get that barbell to the hip crease, that's when we're going to jump and punch into the snatch. Okay, let's try again. Wrist forward, shoulder blades back together, knees out. Shift the weight back into that hang position, into those heels. And then from here, hips scoop in. Once we make our way to the hip crease, jump and pull yourself under into that finishing snatch position. Let's go ahead and do a couple together. Power position, to the hang, and go. Power position, to the hang, and go. Go ahead. Okay, now, you guys are finishing right here, which is above, parallel, and what we would call a power snatch, okay? If we finished all the way below parallel, this is what we're going to call a squat snatch, okay? So as a beginner, we don't worry so much about the squat snatch position. You're going to focus on the power snatch and just pulling yourself into that mini squat underneath the bar. And as you get more confident with your ability, pull the ball harder and pull yourself lower, okay? Now let's talk about how to do it from the floor. So as we have already said, we want you to take it from at least 3 weeks from the hang position, whether it's in the weightlifting portion of workout of the day or in the conditioning portion. Once you get pretty good at that, then you'll have created some muscle memory so that when you take it from the floor, you won't make so many mistakes. Now, let's talk about that floor position. When you set up, you're going to have the weight of your feet, the weight to the front part of your feet, and the barbell is going to be at mid-shin, which if there were plates on the bar would be touching the floor. Remember that hook grip? What I'm going to do to get tight is I'm going to push my wrist forward, and then I'm going to rotate my elbows out to get my back tight. And then from here, I'm going to shift the weight from the front part of my feet to my heels so I can wiggle my toes. Now notice what this is. This is the hang position. Let's go ahead and shift the weight back to the front part of my feet, and then shift back to my heels. Back to the front part of my feet, and then back to my heels. Okay, so really all we've done is take it from our floor position back to our hang position. And we're going to do that pretty slowly. You want to do it slow enough that you can really thoughtfully think about it and feel that weight transition in your feet. Once you get above the knee to the hang position, that's where you can start to pick up speed. So the pull from your knee to your hips should be a lot faster than the pull from the floor to your knee. And I'm going to demonstrate that here. So we're going to go slow to the hang and then pick up speed. Slow to the hang, pick up speed. And that's how you do it from the floor. Practice this at home, guys. Use a PVC pipe or a broomstick. And of course, in class, the trainers will be there to help guide you as well once you get past the initial beginner CrossFit